this whole WNBA pay situation, right, comparing it to the NBA with the draft and everything, this is a perfect example of what's wrong with the equal pay conversation. Welcome to yet another episode of Said Nicely. You already know what it is. Your boy Nick Nice in the place to be, a.k.a. Big Nick Angie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow at the BLC Pod on all social media platforms. You dig what I'm saying? So listen, man. This week was the WNBA draft, right? And shout out to all those young ladies out there, those women out there who were drafted, from the Caitlin Clarks to the Angel Reeses. I mean, you know, the storylines with them were amazing. They were amazing. I think, in fact, they did better than the men's when it came to ratings for the championship game. So kudos to them. That might have been the first time. So they got drafted this week. And immediately I was seeing memes or pictures comparing what they were making, right, to, like, let's say a rookie from the NBA was making, right? Caitlin Clark, I think, was like the number one draft pick, 4 years, around 380, right, to play summer ball. And, comparing it to the men's, which was in the millions, right, per year, per annum, if you will, right? And so, I mean, I get it, certainly was done to spark conversation, but a lot of times there's a lot of nuance to these conversations that are not being had, right? And so, I think for people who get it, they understand that maybe, there's more to it, so they weren't so up in arms. But if I'm being honest, I think a lot of us just kind of see these little headlines, these memes, and we draw conclusions that are not accurate. You know what I'm saying? The truth and the fact of the matter is there's a lot of reasons legitimately why the women in the WNBA don't make as much as the men. You know what I'm saying? Number of games, the amount of revenue that's being generated, the amount of interest in the game, right? We're at a point now, because of the interest from the newer crop of players, right, that may translate to the WNBA. But unlike the, March Madness, the WNBA is still trying to find its footing and its foothold in terms of excitement around the game. And so there's a lot of different moving components, pieces, and parts in regards to, like, why women don't get paid as much in the WNBA compared to men in the NBA. But part of that also extends beyond those leagues, right? Because a lot of times equal pay for equal work, I get that. I'm with that 100%, right? But technically, right, what does that look like? Because in the WNBA, NBA comparison, it's not the same number of games. Yes, it's the same sport. May have a similar practice schedule and stuff like that. But even if the work was the same, if the amount of revenue that's being generated is not the same, then yes, that person doing the same work theoretically should make the same. But if they're working for a company that is not set up to do that, that's not what it is. Is that unfair? Especially if that person can use them same skills and that experience to then go get another job, right? That's just one part of it from, like, a general market conversation. Then there's the other part in terms of negotiation. I myself have been in situations where the range of the job could have been a gulf, right? And I could have just been happy to take the job. And to be honest with you, there were times where I probably did feel that way. But then when I looked at it and how closely I matched what they were looking for, I was like, nah, I need to be closer towards the higher end than the lower end. And I had to be willing to, like, let the job go, right? That's a risk that we take in negotiations. I'm not mad if a company is thinking like, yo, I got to negotiate in my behalf, because that's just the nature of the game. It's an adversarial situation. I just think that people aren't really even considering all these different dynamics if they're just simplistically looking at comparison. And not even to mention the fact that comparison is the thief of joy. You know what I'm saying? These ladies were just getting drafted, but rather than celebrating them, right? And of course, thinking about what we can do to improve the situation in the game, but we want to compare, right, to the men's and then take the focus off of their big days, right? Because each of these young ladies will be able to play a role in elevating that league. Right. What we forget is that the NBA, for example, was on the time delay. The NBA wasn't always what it is today. And certain players came along like Magic and Bird, right, that really elevated from an East Coast, West Coast hard worker to Showtime element, right? And then Michael Jordan happened, right? And he just took it to a whole different stratosphere, both literally and figuratively. And since then, the NBA has been rolling. Right. So when we think about specifically the WNBA, there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of help it. Right. But number one, be a fan of this. Too many people talking about the WNBA, which doesn't translate into their sales, the marketing, the attendance and all that. Right. Maybe Caitlin, these new crop of players, the interest around the game over time, much like, Larry and Magic did, maybe Caitlin and Reese or whoever will help to continue to evolve the sport. But that's going to also take time. And that's also going to take people to be interested in the game. Right? The three-pointer, for example, has helped to equalize it from the men's to women's game because women can shoot threes too. What they can't do for the most part, at least like men do, is dunk, right? That was a part of the game that made it exciting for the NBA and the men's game. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different things. So when we start to think outside the box of solutions, then the problem becomes, well, if we want equality, right, is it fair to lower the rim, for example, right, for the women's game? But they may already play with smaller balls, pause, right? But at the same time, we make accommodations in terms of trying to make it more equitable. The women, for example, may not be looking for the same money. When you look into the nuance of it, they're looking for the same revenue share. And that's equitable, right? Because you're comparing apples to apples in that way. Hey, I get X amount of percent of this pie like the men do, but we also understand that we don't have the same pie. You dig what I'm saying? So, I mean, hopefully we can have these type of real conversations, but there's a lot of instances that I think we so quickly go straight to misogyny or gender inequality or even racism. But there are some times where there's legitimate business considerations and reasons why things are the way that they are. And I think the more astute that we become in those areas, and including negotiation, then maybe we can kind of progress and move things forward. And the more we share information, I think the better they will be. You dig what I'm saying? But anyways, you already know what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, all that good shit at the BLC Pod. # said nicely. I'll see you next time. Peace.